The future of humanity is stuck on small plateaus, and you have to build cities to welcome it back to the Earth. How will you fit all that stuff in a small space? Watch on and find out. My name is Thoraxe, and this is Strategy for Busy People. If you've got a few minutes, I'll tell you what to play. The March of the City Builders continues, and this time we're looking at Cliff Empire by Lion's Shade. I've got about 4.5 hours in this game. It seems to me that there have been quite a few city builders that have targeted this space-constrained category lately. Our recent review of Pile Up was just one example. There's also Leysara. In the case of Cliff Empire, humanity got wrecked or some such thing, and now we have to live on these cliff plateau things above the radioactive mist. Seems plausible enough. So when you first start out, you do some rolling for maps to get a set of 3 cliffs that you're willing to work with, and then it's building time. Your cliffs are fundamentally organized around these central storage systems and use drones for moving things around and maintaining buildings. Whether you're building gadgets or growing grapes, your little drone fleets are required to get things from A to B, with a few exceptions that we'll get to later. As with most city builders these days, or at least the ones that skew towards colony management, food and water are important in addition to electricity. But at least in Cliff Empire, there are no roads to worry about, which is nice. All of your building is constrained by the outer boundaries of the cliff, but each building has a different rectangular size, and the cliffs aren't perfectly square. This does create some interesting decisions later in the game as your cliff surface starts to fill up. Initially, you only have the choices of solar or wind power to keep your city energized, but an interesting mechanic that is thrown into the mix is that each cliff may have a different, quote, adequacy for the power source, if you will, and it might be less than 100%. So similar to how in Pax Augusta corruption affected the output of a building, the suitability percentage for wind power acts as a multiplier against the power produced by your wind farm, and we'll get to scenarios where that might change in a bit. Housing your inhabitants is mostly straightforward, but the colony management aspects of this game take on an interesting twist. The bottom of the screen shows the various requirements for each cliffs people have, and the height of the bar indicates how fulfilled that requirement is. In the case of the base requirements like food variety, water, base food, etc., an interesting thing happens. If these are not sufficiently fulfilled, people start to get sick, which acts as a multiplier on your workforce. This ends up reducing the output of your buildings as well, and when things are full, your people are happy, and happy people just don't shoot their husbands. To top it off, soil fertility also has a multiplier, which affects crop growth. Fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, each cliff has different multipliers among the different categories. You can connect the cliffs with bridges or even air drone terminals, and then you can manage the flow of goods from one cliff to another. And, more interestingly, the income and expense of each cliff is managed individually and not in the aggregate. As an example, my first cliff was importing a lot of food from my second cliff, and I wasn't paying attention, and I started to run out of money. That meant I couldn't buy the food, which caused my population on cliff number 1 to lose efficiency, which meant it was producing even less money, which sent me into a death spiral. Oops. There's a whole system of scientific research for unlocking technology and benefits that I won't even get into because I want to talk about the biggest, most annoying, and painful part of the game, and that is the events system. At some point, the game decides you understand enough of the mechanics, and then it starts to throw screwballs at you. These come in the form of various time-based events, often some kind of weather anomaly, that have a temporary but significant effect. One example is a weather situation that reduces sunlight. That's not so bad, you might think to yourself. Except it's abject misery. Because on that cliff that has high solar efficiency, but low wind efficiency, you didn't build any wind farms at all. And now that cliff is generating no power, which means production drops to zero and perhaps people start leaving. Death spiral again. Before I give my final verdict, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to share it with your friends. Agree with me, disagree with me, or want to see other content? Let me know in the comments below. Want to try this game yourself? Check out my humble affiliate link below. And if you want to support me in making more of these videos, become a patron on Patreon. Your support really makes a difference. The final verdict. The event system really was a kick in the shins, and it kept happening over and over and over. I never seemed to get my feet back under me after the last event before the next thing came along. Setting that aside for the moment, the game has a ton of interesting systems that are all actually quite well intertwined, and the constrained building space of the cliffs and their interwoven economies provides for a city building experience that you may not have experienced before. On my trademarked 3-point score scale of avoid, meh, and I forgot to eat. Once you get past the fundamentals of crops and grapes and apples and such, the game is rather delicious, but only just squeaks out a must-play. I think there are some levers to adjust the events, but as it stands, I enjoyed my time on the cliffs. When that time came to an end, however, I packed up my gadgets and my appliances and got on my personal drone and headed off to a nice restaurant I know. A cliffside restaurant, of course.